So, Michael, we are live. How are you doing today?
I am doing awesome, Martin. Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. We finally fixed your camera issue. Yes. Yesterday people couldn't see how awesome you were yesterday, but today we can see you very clearly. So I'm happy about it.
Are you happy about it?
Yes. Now we can
I'm
see
not
you
sure the
clearly.
audience is that happy. I'm not sure the audience is that happy about it.
Let us know in the comments if you prefer Michael today or yesterday.
Everyone's going to say yesterday. It's better not to see him, I think is what people are going to say.
Because we can go back to Michael look of
Go
yesterday.
back to no camera or just like a foggy video of me. That's preferable for the audience, you think?
We will let the audience decide on their own, Michael.
Okay, in the chat, please let us know.
Exactly.
Please let us know in the chat. Okay, Martin, let's welcome all of our AGTP daily people, and we go live every day, as we say, Martin, every day, every weekday, excuse me, at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to discuss
Yes.
the most important topics in tech in the United States. It's Thursday, Martin,
Yep.
May 14th, 2026. Let's
Yes.
get to it. A few things to cover today. It's going to feel a little bit like Groundhog Day to people, I think, because a couple of these things have been updated a little bit. Maybe one of them has, one of them hasn't. We'll get into that as well. The U.S. has now cleared 10 Chinese companies very quietly to buy Nvidia chips. We'll get to some of the details there. Oh, Anthropic is reinstating third-party agent usage.
Mm.
I would say kind of.
Okay. Okay.
I
Okay.
would say
Okay.
kind of. Well, I'd like to get your opinion on this.
That's interesting.
And OpenAI has come out and said that they support a global AI governance framework.
Okay.
And I'll get to this too, but it feels like the 1980s, and we'll see why that is relevant in a second. Okay, let's talk about our first topic here. U.S. cleared 10 Chinese companies to buy Nvidia chips. Okay, let's go through this. The U.S. says, let's just get some details straight here first. The U.S. has reportedly, very quietly, cleared about 10 Chinese companies, including Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, and JD.com, the usual suspects, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
to buy Nvidia's H200 AI chips with Lenovo and Foxconn approved as distributors. Now, note that Foxconn
Mm-hmm.
is the manufacturer for almost all Apple
Okay.
gear, right, in China. Anyway, but no shipments have happened yet. The H200 is a very valuable chip. It's Nvidia's like second most powerful chip today. It's good for large model inference and high performance AI stuff, but none of it is shipped yet. And the problem here, at least according to the reporting, is that the deal is stuck between US conditions, which are ridiculous, and Beijing's suspicion of foreign technology dependency and China's push to build their own domestic AI chips through companies like Huawei. So, does all that make sense so far, Martin? Does any of this sound familiar to you?
That's exactly it. That's why I was laughing just before you asked the question. But this is exactly what we said last week or 2 weeks ago. All right.
It was
Exactly
more
the
like a month. It was
analysis.
more like a month ago. It was more like a month ago. But the
Mm-hmm.
reason why this is back in the news is because again, the U.S. has quietly, because then they canceled it,
Yeah.
and then they came back and saying the same thing. So the one thing about this government is that they're highly consistent. That's the best part about it is, they say one thing, they stick to that thing, they're very committed to that thing unless they change their mind at like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's really hard. And I think I kind of understand the Chinese government's stance on this.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you want to deal with reliable partners.
For sure. All the
You and I
time.
talked about this offline and I think this is true in all aspects of your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just want to have reliable partners.
For sure.
You don't even have to like them. They just have to be
Mm-hmm.
reliable.
If they
I'm
say
dead
something,
serious.
it happens, and you trust them to not become crazy or to take, stupid decision or stuff like that. It really helps in life for sure. Yep.
So, Martin, one of the things I say is I say what I do,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? I say what I do and I do what I say,
Yes, 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 yes,
right?
yes.
So if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If I do something, it was probably something that told you I was going to do.
Exactly. Which is very
And
important.
it's, yeah, and it's just, you know exactly where you stand. It's unlikely
Yes.
um, for me to veer away from it. And I've kind of minimized my interactions with people who do what they say and say what they do, because otherwise your life is just completely unstable. And
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
frankly, who needs that? If you're
Yes.
sensing some undertones, you're getting it right. Anyway, um, so let's go readdress this thing. I think there are two things that are happening today that feel like Groundhog Day. Can I go through this with you?
Yes, please go ahead.
In a way, this government kind of feels a little bit to me. I want to make a sports reference, if that's
Okay.
okay with you.
Okay.
And this is, and again, it's happened. It's like a mirror into two things. But there is a current quarterback in the National Football League of the United States. You won't see this as relevant, Martin, but believe me, the U.S. audience will completely understand this when I start talking about it. Who mirroring his actually his mentor or the guy he replaced for the last like 3 or 4 seasons has said, I don't know if I'm going to play this season, this coming up season,
Okay.
and it's kind of left the league in the lurch, we say.
Okay.
And then kind of at the last minute, he changes his mind,
Okay.
and then changes his mind back, and then changes it back. And I feel like this is what's going on here. It's like,
Okay.
are you playing or are you not playing?
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
oh,
Okay.
you are. Okay. Well, what are we supposed to do in the interim? Like, should we plan anything?
Mm-hmm.
Should we make
Mm-hmm.
any plans? We're not going to make it. You're coming. You're not. Like, we don't know. And this is what's going on here. So we do have to ask this question, though. Remember, we did a whole segment a couple of days ago about Jensen Huang saying that like the market share for Nvidia in China literally went from 95% to zero,
Yeah.
right? And it cost them a lot of money. I think they
Yes.
did a $5 billion equipment write-off, and it was something like 20% of their revenue, if I remember correctly. I
Yes.
don't
Yes.
have the
Yes.
details in front of me.
Something like that. Yeah. So
Like that,
as
right?
a as a
Right.
as a company that's worth $4 trillion, when you lose 20% of your income, that's huge, right? Like that's huge.
Well,
So I
yeah.
so I understand that Nvidia is pushing to get like to be able to sell back to China, right? Because all of a sudden they lose once again 20% of their income. That's massive.
Well, do you know what's going on right now in the world? Seriously, like you know that like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 senior executives from
Yep.
big U.S. companies got on Air Force One and went to China. They're in China right
Yes.
now,
Yes. 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 Yes.
and I don't know if you can tell by Jensen Huang's last name,
I mean,
but he's not Irish.
yeah. No, it's not Irish. It's not French neither.
He's definitely not French either. But
Yeah.
the point is that like he wants to do business in China. And I think given the ability to do so, they would do a lot of business in China. But you have to be a reliable partner. So from China's perspective, they're saying if we're going to deal with unreliable partners, we're going to create our own reliability internally. So you have to ask this question. Is this really a breakthrough this time for Nvidia? And I would make the case that the answer to that is no, but you still have to ask the question. Here's
Mm-hmm.
the thing. The key fact here is that US approval has not translated into any deliveries or sales,
Yeah.
right?
It's not
Right.
because the US says you can buy that the Chinese are going to buy, right? We can say, okay, now we don't want it, we don't want it anymore. Now we just organized. You are not reliable anymore. We're just gonna do our stuff. Thank you very much.
Right. So each approved customer apparently, again,
Mm-hmm.
according to the reporting, can buy up to 75,000 chips.
Okay.
That's a meaningful upside for orders if these orders actually go forward, right? That's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of chips.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 75,000. It's what 750,000 chips,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there are 10 companies apparently that have been
Mm-hmm.
given
Mm-hmm.
approval to do this. But the deal apparently requires Chinese buyers to meet US security and end use conditions. Like you can have them, but you can't do this stuff with them. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
why am I sitting at the edge of the pool in my bathing suit with my sunscreen, but I can't go swimming? Like, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense. and and where are we? Nvidia's fiscal quarter four 2026 release said that its Q1 fiscal 2027 outlook assumes no data center compute revenue from China, which suggests to me that management is not yet treating this China H200 revenue as anything that they're going to get.
Yes.
Again, remember, Martin, we spent all last night talking about GameStop and
eBay.
excuse me, and eBay,
Mm-hmm.
and how the market was just going like, I hear what you're saying,
But maybe not.
but I don't really believe it. And the market reaction to this may be a little bit ahead of reality. So the investors like the optionality, they like the idea
Mm-hmm.
that maybe this is happening. But there are U.S. licensing conditions. There's Chinese supply chain scrutiny going on here, and remember, even though China says it's okay, there is a real desire on the Chinese side to build their own infrastructure and their own
For sure.
ecosystem around this. Because again, if you have unreliable partners, the only way to be reliable is to do it yourself.
But plus also like that's a big win, right? To keep everything in China. Like that's the biggest upside. If we can build everything in China, build Chinese companies, get the entire stack integrated in China, that's much better, right? Like for them, it makes much more sense to build their own chips if they can, right? If they can achieve the same level of power and compute that Nvidia is able to do, it makes much more sense to just build it yourself.
It does. And look, you and I went back and forth on this. I think we agreed, but we did go back and forth and give like two arguments around this, right? Like this, the idea of should we just keep selling to them because keeping Chinese AI companies on Nvidia's platform could potentially, because you're giving them no incentive then to deliver and to develop their own stuff.
Yes.
It just gives the U.S. ecosystem more leverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now I guess the current administration is now figuring out like, oh no, if they're going to do it on their own, maybe we should just sell it to them, and then we can make some more money from it. And there were some rumors that the U.S. government wanted to be involved in the deal and take like 25% of the revenue.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I was reading, and that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about it, because is that what governments do, really?
I
What is
mean,
that face?
they take tax. That's the goal. That's why they start, right? They are supposed to get their share, like their cut of the income, of the profit, sorry, through the tax
But you,
system,
but, but,
but not
but
through.
yeah, but they're not supposed to get 25% of
Exactly.
sales.
Exactly.
They're not like involved in the sales process. I don't think.
Yeah, this is special, let's say. Very
And
special.
remember, and
Mm-hmm.
remember,
Mm-hmm.
this is after saying we're not going to sell anything there.
Mm-hmm.
So like I did, it's like mixed incentives to me. Um, anyway, and then the anti-sale argument, this idea of like we these H200 chips are just way too powerful. We can't give it to them because then they'll catch up on the frontier compute side, on the frontier model side, and we don't want them to learn that fast enough. But to be fair, they're doing that on their own anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the worry is always not just for consumer facing stuff, but it's for the military facing stuff too,
Yep.
right? And that's a real thing, right? And
Yes.
Reuters again comes back and is quoting some of these critics of the U.S. saying that, um, because their chips are supply constrained as well, that any
Mm-hmm.
chips that Nvidia sells to China, they're not selling to U.S. makers or U.S. potential buyers, and that's a downside too. So, to be fair, there is some sort of push and pull on what the right thing to do here is.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, I think you should let the market decide.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We said this before and we'll say it again. And I want to make another point about the quarterback because we'll get to that in a second too. When we're done at the end of this segment, I want to make a point about the quarterback because I want to make the same point about this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
My feeling on this, and I have one more question that I think we should ask, but my feeling on this is that dependence for me, so China buying chips from Nvidia, is a better outcome than pushing them into a corner and forcing them to do development on their own. But I think that's already water under the bridge. That bridge has already been crossed.
Yes, 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 I
Okay.
control.
Because the real question then you'd have to ask yourself is a year and a half ago, like how serious was China about replacing Nvidia with Huawei
Yeah,
and other makers? The answer was
exactly.
not really that serious.
Yeah.
They were happy
That,
to just keep buying these chips. Go
yeah,
ahead.
that's what I was saying. Like, if I'm at the second that they felt in China that if the US would do that, I'm sure they started the process of like, okay, let's build our own chip now, right? Because we can't do nothing, right? Like we can't do absolutely nothing. So we get to build our chip. And then once the process is started, when you start to think about it, when it's in your head, when you invest money into it, when you get organized, you're not gonna stop everything, right? So as you said, like the bridge has already been crossed, right? I think they already put everything in motion to get their own chip started and built, right?
Yep.
And so now it's just a matter of time of like when is it going to be ready and what do they do in the meantime, right? If they can buy the Nvidia chips, maybe they can develop their models faster, and so they are going to be less behind in 6 months to 12 months when their chips come out,
On the
right?
model side, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
on the model side, that's if they buy the Nvidia chips, or you just don't buy the Nvidia chips at all and you just don't give any money to the US if they believe that their chips can be good fast, right? But we don't know. We are not like in the lab in China. But I think once China decides, okay, let's make our own chips, it's too late for the US. I think yeah, as you said,
So
the broad
so he,
secretaries.
so I don't disagree with you, and here's the way I would explain it.
Mm-hmm.
I think China is very serious about replacing Nvidia's chips with
Yes.
Huawei and other sort of
Yes.
Chinese developed and manufactured chips.
Yeah.
But Chinese firms themselves, the companies that want to use these chips, right? So China itself as an entity wants,
Mm-hmm.
Huawei and some of these other tech firms that have the capacity and have the intelligence to be able to do this stuff, but are just far behind because they haven't spent any time developing. They feel like they can do it and they want this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some missing pieces here, right? So Chinese firms want NVIDIA for the exact reasons that you were talking about. They want to do stuff now.
Yeah.
And remember, I want to go through this because I think it's important again for people to understand. But you'll see at the end how many more times I want to go through this.
Tell me.
Yeah, no, but I want everybody else to know, and I want them to know why. Chinese firms still want Nvidia because of CUDA. We
Mhm.
went through this once before, but that's Nvidia's compute unified device architecture. That's their software platform
Yes.
that lets developers use Nvidia's GPUs for general computing, not just graphics. It's a way they're saying, here's the chip that was originally meant for a graphics user interface or for graphics, but because of CUDA, because this compute unified device architecture they call CUDA, now you can use this to do all the AI stuff you want. It is the layer that allows AI, scientific computing, all this kind of stuff to run efficiently on NVIDIA's chips. And to be fair, Huawei has not developed that level of abstraction and
Mhm.
software for their chips yet. And that also takes time,
For
right?
sure.
So
Found it.
even if they have the great chips, you still need the software layer to be able to have them doing it. And Huawei's getting better at this,
Mhm.
right? And I think even back in March, Reuters reported that ByteDance and Alibaba were planning. I think it's important to say for planning orders for Huawei's new 950 PR chip,
Mhm.
um, and saying that it was compatible, not
Mhm.
equal to,
Mhm.
but compatible to NVIDIA's CUDA software system. Um, and apparently, Huawei reportedly planned to ship around 750,000 of those chips in 2026, but that's the exact allocation. Sound familiar?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
To the number that has been approved to be sold. Like, this is just like childish, like
It looks really
sandbox crap
childish.
that like
It
5-year olds do. Sorry, go ahead.
it looks really childish. Like, let's say in a couple of weeks, if in a couple of weeks, no chips have been bought from Nvidia. Okay, nothing, zero. No Chinese company said, okay, we are going to buy it. I mean, it was obvious, right? like if that happened, it looks like such a childish play that would be so obvious, right? Like we talked about that last time. Like if you put China in a corner and you force them to build their own stuff, they're gonna build their own stuff. They are not going to say, okay, we give up the entire AI industry because we can't buy your chip, right? This is not gonna happen, right? Not a company that has, not a country that has the firepower in terms of tech that like China, right? It's just impossible. They can do it. They can do it. They have the engineer. They have the money. They have the resource. They have everything, right? Like if you can't believe that they are not going to do that. And once they are like, okay, we are going to buy to build our own chips with Huawei, and plus also like they said that DeepSeek and like they started to integrate the chips into their models already. And once they do that, you say, oh no, they are going to build their own chips. Then maybe now we let them buy our chip. I mean, like even a 5 years old would understand that that's really bad decisions, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but even
I'm
if
making my own cookies.
exactly,
You've told me you have cookies. You told me you're going to give me those cookies. You took those cookies away.
so when
I
I made
want a
my own,
cookie. You won't give me a cookie. I'm making my own cookies. I know I'm 5, but I know where the oven is. I'm making my own cookies. That's what this is. No?
and now that I know how to make my own cookie, I will never buy cookie from you again, right? So now
I
I'm
won't even
gonna
listen to
make
the cookie conversation. Like this is
exactly
what it is, right?
now.
Again,
So
it's like
now
5 years,
now
5 year
all of
olds.
your leverage is gone. So and plus even if sorry Chinese company still buys the Nvidia chips right now, once again, if they have started the process to make their own chip, now you are just going to make them not fall too much behind during the transition period. You are going to help them to keep to stay basically
Exactly.
to stay good, right? Because the whole point of stopping to sell to them a couple of weeks ago was to force them to start, but also to make to slow them down a lot, right? Like maybe they're gonna take 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, right, to get to the same level of Nvidia. And now what you say is that even during this transition period, you are going to help them by selling them the chips, right? So it can't be both, right? It can't be both. You can't
It's going to be both.
like now you are really doing everything wrong. It's like, okay, do you want the cookie? No, okay, so I'm gonna cook myself. But while you cook, here is my cookie, right? Like you can still eat my
And you're like,
cookies.
I'm not even hungry anymore. What are we doing?
It's really well. It's a really really weird strategy. Yeah, it's really well.
So I want to bring this back to the football player because I
Mhm.
want to institute the same kind
Tell
of
me,
rule.
tell me.
So, but and I also because you mentioned the word leverage, and I want to give you an example of what that leverage looks like in another milieu, in another venue. Yeah.
Okay.
a good, a top tier, like top five starting quarterback in the United States of America in the NFL today makes somewhere between 50 and $60 million a year.
Mhm.
Okay, they play 17 games a year.
Pretty much like a host at Anthropic Media. That's pretty much the
Almost the
salaries
same,
as well.
almost the same,
Yeah,
a
we
little
do
bit more.
we do a little bit
They
more.
make.
We do a little bit more episodes, but in terms of salary, very similar.
The only difference is that host shows up every day,
Exactly.
multiple times a day, and it's always there and it's always available and has no qualms about like working tomorrow, working the next day. And you always know he's going to be available. But this guy last year,
Okay.
last no, but this is important, and I'm not joking about this, right? But I want to put it into context. Last year, this guy before the start of the season said, "I don't know if I'm going to play anymore." And as it got closer and closer to the beginning of the season, he was like, "Okay, fine, I'm going to play." And I decided I'm going to play with this team, whatever, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they were like, "Fine, but you haven't been here for like practice, enough practice. We're not going to give you a normal contract. We're going to pay you $10 million a year."
Mhm.
Essentially, because he lost all his leverage.
Yep.
And if the chat wants to argue with me on this, particularly if you're from Pittsburgh, argue with me on this, please. I dare you. Um, but the point is that he lost all his leverage because he was not clear with the team. He was
Yeah.
not a reliable partner.
Yeah.
And this year he went ahead and did the same thing.
Okay.
And one of the things that happened this year was the backlash for him was the team then did some tricky stuff with his contract and said the only thing we're going to do is pay you 15 million bucks at the most. But more importantly is that a lot of people in the press said, "You know what? I'm done talking about this.
Hmm.
I'm
And
done talking about it."
did they really stop? Because in the
So
UFC,
the people that so the ring, this I'm talking about the ringer, right? The guys
okay,
at the on the Ringer NFL show said, "You know what? I'm done talking about this.
okay,
I'm just done. This is a lot." We'll mention it because at the beginning of the offseason, he's going to do the same thing again. He's told us that by June he's going to make a decision. No, by May. He has not done that. I'm done talking about it until he does something proactive. I'm not going to speculate about it anymore. I'm not going to talk about it. If he flip flops again, I'm not going to talk about the flip flop. And this is what I want to do with China, the US, and Nvidia. Make a decision,
yeah,
make the right decision, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like I didn't want to talk about it tonight, but I wanted to give it one last bit because I want the market to understand what's going on and just the silliness of what's happening with these companies in the context of like, don't we just want to get tech moving forward in the same way that like the football teams just want to get football moving forward? If it were me, if I were the one making this decision on the football team and on the chip side, would just say yes or no. What's the answer? That's the final thing. I'm not going back and forth anymore. And as somebody who talks about this stuff, it's tiring to have to talk about people that cannot make a decision. And I think that was what the NFL Ringer show did. They were like, you know what, we're not talking about this anymore. We're just not.
but yeah, like it's big, right? Because if China starts to build their own chips, right, and the chips become good, and they start to export the chips, it can really change a lot of stuff in the market.
Absolutely.
Because that's going to impact the data centers, it's going to impact the models themselves, it's going to create a massive competitor to Nvidia maybe in 3 to 5 years, right?
Oh yeah.
It's going to be big, right? Like the day Huawei has chips that works, it can change a lot of things in the landscape for AI, right? And maybe more, right? Maybe for PC as well. Like who knows what they are going to do with these chips, right? But
Yeah.
the day that it works and it's competitive and they can give a good price, and you know what? If I was the Chinese government, the first thing I do is as I subsidize them. So I
Exactly.
sell them at a loss, just like they are doing with the EVs, right? Just to really, really, really attack badly, the US companies, right? Like I put
Yeah.
so much money into it just to like flood the market with tons of chips, right? That are super cheap but amazing, right? And so everybody buy them, including the US companies, and
Yeah.
that could be really, really, really bad for Nvidia and the other chip maker, right? So I think here it's like, okay, they ban the purchase of Nvidia chips, but the day Huawei is organized and is able to compete, it's going to be a big, 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 big player. It's going to be very bad for them, I think.
The worst part about this, and maybe we stop talking about this in a moment, but the worst part about this for me is this is not a misstep or a
Mm-hmm.
misplanning or a misallocation of resources or a bad design on Anthropic's part. It's just not, right?
No.
The company itself did all the right things,
Yeah.
but some exogenous factor, some dumb exogenous factor got in the way and said, you can't sell those chips to these wise guys anymore who wanted to have them as much as they could possibly get their hands on. And if you hadn't, it's the same thing, Martin, right? If you have access to something, to anything, and
Mm-hmm.
then somebody takes it away for a while, when they come back and go, I have it again, you're
Mm-hmm.
like, sorry, I've replaced that with a different supplier.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for coming back after weeks or months of telling me that you didn't have that thing,
Yeah.
but
No,
I've
for sure. Yeah.
replaced you with another supplier. And then it's not, or somebody got in the way, because that's actually what happened here. The supplier itself, Nvidia, never said no.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
told to say no by somebody else. And that seems to me to be the height of silliness, particularly from an economic standpoint. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's see how it evolves. But yeah, we may buy some Huawei chips at some point.
To run our own AI. We're because
And
the model that we've been working on,
mm, exactly, the
it's going to
big
be
model
much
that we've
bigger.
been building. No, but think about it. Like the day Nvidia can make some chip and they start competing on a global level, that
Yep.
can be really really scary for the US chip chip maker, right? So you are not only
Yep. You know,
slowing them down, you are actually
yep.
building a massive competitor with a government that can subsidize the chips, and so which means they can
Yep.
sell at a loss for how long, right? Until
Yep.
like they get tons of market share against Nvidia, right? So also like
Yep.
maybe that's what Nvidia is seeing here. They're like guys, we don't want them to be too big too quick, right? Like we got to slow them down as much as we can. We got to
Yep.
keep selling them chips. We got to try to not build the competitor, right? Because that's what I would be super scared about, right? And I think that's going to happen. Huh? That's going to happen. I don't see a world where
So,
Huawei doesn't get big and doesn't start selling chips globally. I think it's going to happen.
yeah. And look, I mean, as I mentioned earlier,
Mm,
Jensen Huang is in China right now. I don't know how long
yeah,
that trip is going to last. And he
yeah,
wants to go there to try to convince China to then newly allow them to buy these chips again.
yeah.
Um, but I will say this, and maybe this is the last thing we say about this. The hard part for him is that he had somebody else step in his way. And as you say, like, I just want to keep repeating this thing. You have to have reliable partners.
Mm-hmm.
And even if those partners cannot create that reliability on their own, you still want to have reliable partners. And who's going to be more reliable, Huawei or Nvidia, who doesn't have their own agency, meaning they can't decide for themselves when and if and how they can sell these chips into China on their own. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, who would you trust?
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Let's see how it goes.
Okay, so it feels like Groundhog Day to me, and we're going to have another topic that we've discussed before, but I feel like we have more detail, and I think this is your wheelhouse. But let me introduce this, and then we can talk about this a little bit more. Yeah.
Let's do it.
So Anthropic has reversed, like officially reversed, right? Their ban on
Okay.
third-party AI agents using Claude subscriptions.
Oh wow.
But so let's just talk about this. The company announced this that the change via its at Claude Dev's account on X, effective June 15th. But there's a bit of a catch, right?
Okay.
So yeah, just read through this a little bit. But it comes with a new credit system that fundamentally changes how agentic use is priced if it's not if it's programmatic,
Okay.
right? So this is kind of like the discussion we had before, but now it's official.
Okay.
And again, that's why I wanted to talk about it. So Anthropic is a company who says what they do and don't do what they say, and is a reliable partner. And back, remember when people started, I would say overusing, so they were
Mhm.
using, um, harnesses,
Yeah.
essentially Claude. I mean, sorry, essentially Open
OpenClaw,
Claude,
Hermes, Paperclip, like
all these
all these
things,
guys.
right? To
Yeah.
to do this programmatic programming,
Mm-hmm.
they were just like, oh my god, it's way too much token use. Putting this through the $20 thing or the $200 thing, like, just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So the new part here for this thing, starting June 15th, 2026, is the credits that you buy for this are fixed. You can't roll them over on a month-to-month basis. It's per user, and usage beyond the credit moves the standard API style billing only if extra usage is enabled. In practical terms, Martin, what this means is that Anthropic is allowing third-party agents back in, but it's ending for sure this flat rate subscription has unlimited agent compute, right? Because it's okay for like for someone who's actually just using it to do compute, but doing it on their own, not using agentic AI to then just like run, go watch a football game, and then come back and use millions of tokens to do this stuff. They want to switch that, right? So the real question here is this just an official repricing of agent usage? And my answer to that is yeah. Don't you think so?
So is it just for OpenClaw, or is it for I mean, is it for
No, for every kind of programmatic attachment to Claude Code.
so that include Cloud Code, for example?
Yeah, because
So it's not
so
only the
so
third party; it's themselves as well.
no. No, it's not that. I don't think so. So you have to. Anthropic is no longer fully blocking third-party apps authenticated through. They're building an SDK around this, but those apps now draw from a dedicated agent SDK credit instead of the broader Claude subscription pool.
Okay. So if it's third party, okay, let's say because that's important because for example for us we use Cloud Code, right? So am I
Yep.
impacted myself or not? That's really the question that I'm
But
that I'm wondering.
do you do it in a programmatic way? In other words, do you have agents go ahead and do this,
Of
or you
course.
built your own harness to do this?
Yes, that's my own harness because the way it was working before, right, is like OpenClaw as the harness, right? Like they had some sentences, some content inside all of your prompts. So what the Anthropic teams did is that they just checked what did OpenClaw add to the prompt, and so then we were like, when this type of content is added to the prompt that we receive, then we know they are using OpenClaw, so we block them. Okay, so
Yep.
that's how it was working, and they did that because OpenClaw was getting so big that then they were getting like massive usage in terms of token, way more than what the plan were built for at the beginning, and so that's why they
Yep.
they banned them, right? So
Yep.
so which means there is really this two thing here, right? There is first of all the massive extra usage that was not planned, right? So that's the first thing, and the second thing is the possibility to identify that you use OpenClaw, right? So for us, what we do is we are only in the super massive extra usage category because we don't use OpenClaw, right? But
Right.
last week I used like 99%, I think, of my $200 plan, right? Because my agents are 24/7 and they don't stop, and I'm in every day I check if I'm like 12 13% of the daily use to sorry 10 12 13% of the weekly use. I'm checking every day to make sure that at the end of the week I don't I don't have my full system that break. So I am like at the limit, so which means like I use tons of tokens and I use the maximum that's available to me. So am I impacted, right? Because if we are impacted as cloud users through programmatic, agent that just run 24/7, then it means that that's really the first step towards making this plan disappear, right? Which we talked a lot about that, and that's
Last
what I
time, yeah.
think is going to happen at some point. I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't because I love these plans. But it makes no sense to pay $200 to get like thousands and thousands of dollars of API costs. So at some
Right.
point, I think they are going to disappear. So if that's the case, that sucks, but that makes sense. But that sucks really bad, like
Right.
really
So let's
bad.
go. Let's for us for sure,
Mhm.
but not just for us, right? For a lot of people.
For
So the
everybody.
real change here, at least according to the stuff that I've read, is that Anthropic is separating human interactive usage from machine-driven programmatic use. So theoretically, as you said, Martin, like a human can only prompt and do so many changes, while an autonomous agent on
Mhm.
the programming side can loop, test, retry, do all this kind of stuff, and generate thousands of model calls in a way that just ends up being really expensive
For them.
for Anthropic.
Yeah,
And Axios, so one of the articles that I read, just frames this as like this all-you-can-eat AI subscription stuff may not survive the agentic era because agents can do things at scale that humans cannot do,
exactly. Yep.
right? So it's a lot. It's saying that like you can legitimize these third-party agents, but you're forcing them into what I would call like metered economics. Like you're gonna have to pay for the stuff you use as opposed to having this all-you-can-eat subscription. So
Mhm,
it is
mhm,
likely that it's going to affect everybody. The core issue, we always talk about arbitrage, right, Martin?
mhm,
Like
mhm, mhm.
if something is mispriced, you can just keep using it.
Yeah.
right? If it's priced one way here and one way over there, and you still can do the same things with both things, you're going to use the cheaper thing,
Yes,
right?
this is what I see.
So
Yep.
in the old days, the users that were paying like 20 and $200 a month could run 30 third-party agents that consumed way more model usage than the subscription price presumed you were going to use when they made those subscriptions, right? I mean,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know that we've talked about this, yeah.
Yes.
But some users, and maybe we were one of them, were using thousands or hundreds of dollars of token value through these agent harnesses, yeah, through
Exactly. Yep.
OpenClaw and
Yep.
stuff
Yep. Yep.
like
Yep.
that.
Yep. Yep.
And that's just like fundamentally not economically viable for these guys. They had to come up with some kind of solution for this, right? So I think one of the reasons why they banned this programmatic stuff, what was it, back on April 4th, right? That they made this announcement. The reason why they did that was because they didn't know what the solution was yet. And they
Yes.
hadn't done the math around like what the right
No. No.
answer
No. Yeah.
was to this.
Mm-hmm.
And that April thing was driven by capacity and cost pressure. Look, we know that compute, this is why the data center thing, like this just gets back to like why they're building massive data centers and why they want to build more and more than why they want to have more compute, is they just simply don't have enough compute at that price
Yes.
to be able to support all of that programmatic pressure and
Exactly.
all those model calls, right? um, and part of the reason why was because back then, before April 4th, real power users, and maybe we fit into that category, yeah, they wanted agents that could just run 24/7. And these labs needed to control their costs at some point, right? In other words, again, I hate to get back to pop culture,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
like Larry David did this thing once where he went again on his TV show. He's a comedian. He did this thing on his TV show where he went into a buffet, and the buffet was all the shrimp you can eat. Right? It was like $20 and all the shrimp you could eat, and he was like, "Awesome." So he went up to the buffet bar and like took a bag and just like started loading tons of shrimp into the bag. And the
Yeah.
waiter came over and was like, "It's all the shrimp you can eat in the restaurant." And he was like,
Yes. Yes.
"That's
Yes.
not
Yes.
what it says."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So again, they said this is all the shrimp you can eat. But people were like, "Okay, can I have a machine eat the shrimp too?" And they're like, "That's not what we intended."
Yes.
So they had to change the rules, I think, and that's going to impact a lot of different people.
So I don't know. I think like I'm reading the article right now. The way I understand it is that we are going to be impacted.
Yeah,
Um,
it feels like it.
I need to check if we use like the specific Claude slash like Claude dash P, because that's the CLI call to actually call Claude through the CLI, which is the way we use for
Yep.
programmatic
So
basically.
Claude-P is included in this. Yeah.
And that's included. And so I think that everybody that is using basically Claude, so not only OpenClaw and all of that, for example, us as well. So, and I don't understand what it means that they say that if you pay $200, you're gonna get $200 of monthly credits, but they don't say if it's monthly credit of the API or month or another way to calculate this monthly credit. But
Yeah.
why would they introduce another way when they already have the API cost? Which is, it's very likely that the $200 of credits is going to do that in just a few days instead of a
It
month,
feels like it.
basically. Yeah. Because through the API, it's just crazy more expensive, and so that's why we pay for the subscription. So you know what I expect?
What's that?
Massive migration to credits.
Okay, so this is a really good point. So what does this say about the future of
Yeah,
AI agents and the AI business model, or what does it say?
that's what's gonna happen. No?
Well, it could create an opening for AI and other
Mm.
rivals for sure,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
right? And part of the reporting from Axios says that OpenAI is trying to lure disaffected Anthropic users by offering new business customers 2 months of free codex usage. Again, it's like, it's like the drug dealer standing outside the high school going, "You guys tried this stuff? This stuff's pretty amazing. It's free."
So actually, let's be careful here about like who is the client, okay? Because we
Yep.
are not an enterprise client. Like we are a
No, for sure.
very tiny client, right? That is paying $200, and we should pay maybe $5,000, right? So my guess is that the revenue that Entropy is getting from guys like us is tiny, right? Like the big enterprise, the Facebook, all of these guys, they already pay for the API. They don't pay for the $200 per month
Yep.
plan, right? So they are
Yep.
not there. So which means they are not impacted. And like all of their, let's say, like what, and at the latest news, Anthropic was making $45 billion per year, right? I'm pretty sure
Annually. Yep. Yep.
43 are from the guys like Facebook who just pay for the API, and then the tiny part is the guy like us, the small enterprises we use just like the monthly plan, right? But to be fair, the monthly plan, even at $200, you can't do that much. Like it's fine for us because I am alone, right? And we don't have like a massive team. But if you have a company, even of a few employees, very quickly you get to use the API because the $200
Yeah.
plan, even this one, is going to be too limited. So which means once again, those companies are not impacted by this change, right? So which means at the end of the day, the guys who are impacted are really the guys who are not using that much, right? And I mean, who are not using that much in terms, who are not spending that much in Anthropic, and who are not the enterprise. Like that's the type of client that we don't want to have, right? I think at the end of the day. So that's why it's not going to create like a whole new opportunity for others. I don't think so, because once again, the number of people who are impacted is way too small. The real client, they already use the API. For them, nothing changed, right?
Yep.
And so the client that OpenAI would want to get, unfortunately for them, nothing changes, right? It's more like all the bad clients that you don't want to get because that's the one who
Let's be
sends you.
careful about. Let's be careful about who we're calling bad clients. Let's just call them smaller clients.
Yeah, but
I don't consider us a bad client.
no, but in every company, you have this client who will send you 10 tickets every day because he has tons of questions, and he thinks you are his best friend and all of that, like this type of client, who just like overuse everything and will just pay the same
Really
price. And
annoying.
just at some point, you're like, just go to my competitor, right? Like, just go there.
Go to Lehman Brothers, please. We used to do this all the time. Just go to Lehman. They'll
Or
handle you better, please.
just go there. So that's pretty much how I feel, Like, that's how I feel. I feel like we are this type of clients, and they are getting rid of us, which makes sense, right? And we may go to OpenAI that still offer this type of plan. For how long, we don't know, but it really feels like Anthropic is trying to economically make sense, where OpenAI doesn't necessarily look to economically make sense at this point, right? Like,
So,
and
so I
mm,
go ahead.
yeah, so I think this is like one of the biggest difference right now that I see, at least as a user, right? Is that if you are on Anthropic, you have weekly limit, you have 5 hours limit, the quota changes. Like, they are trying to manage the usage, right? So they are trying to manage the loss on their side, where OpenAI doesn't do any of that. Like, they give you way higher limits, everything's fine, like, you know. And now they are going to let you use your stuff everywhere without the same type of restriction. So as a user, you get way more for your money out of OpenAI, way more. And now it's just going to get even more, right? So once again, I think we represent a tiny part of Anthropic's income, so they may not want to focus on us, great, but more as a company strategy. OpenAI looks to be much more able to invest into growth, while Anthropic looks more like, okay, let's control our loss and let's try to make something economically viable.
But what's your view? I don't disagree with you at all, and
Mhm.
I want to talk about this a little bit more actually. But what's your view on OpenAI facing the same economics at some point, right?
Yeah,
And
at
here's the
some point for
question for
sure.
me
Yeah,
too.
at some point.
So there's a little follow up thought for me too, though,
Hmm.
and that is if $43 billion of your income,
Hmm.
right, 90 something percent is from enterprises that are already paying through the API,
Yeah.
and if Jevons paradox is actually real, which means that as the price of stuff goes down
Hmm.
in the technology space, and actually Peter and I spoke about this today, which was great because I actually looked this up a couple of days ago, and he was like the Jevons paradox, and I'm like, this happens when technology progress increases the efficiency that a resource can be used, but the falling cost means that people start using it more,
Hmm.
right? So it doesn't matter. You're still making the same amount of money because the cost of producing it becomes less and less. But the paradox is that people start using it more and more.
Hmm.
So it ends up being the same.
Hmm.
But the point here is that these economics are going to come back, I think, and haunt OpenAI too.
For
So
sure.
there's no real reason for people to switch at the level where we exist. But here's the thing, the losses also from clients like we are small.
Yeah,
because you're
from
never
yeah.
gonna have the same level of token usage as somebody like Microsoft is, or whoever these their big, um, or Meta, because their usage is just going to be literally factors and factors higher.
Yes.
So if those guys were on a $200 a month plan, that would be silliness. That would be financial suicide. But if we are on that plan, actually what it does is, and we used to do this at Goldman Sachs all the time. We used to, I wouldn't say at a loss, but we would actually let small, we told you this whole time, I told you this whole time, Martin, we would let small hedge funds use our tools in some cases for free.
Just
Because when
try.
they went from a $5 million hedge fund to a
Mm.
$5 billion hedge fund, they're like, those Goldman guys were
Wow.
good to us when we were small. Now we have the budget to pay. Why would we pay somebody else since they were there when we were nobody? And I think
Correct.
this is the thing that Anthropic's missing. And
Completely missing. Yep.
while OpenAI may still run up against the same economic problems, eventually, management there's different.
It's
We
very
know
different.
this.
It's very different. Very, very different. Very different. So yeah, so
It's
I
very
think
different.
I think OpenAI will run into the same problem, but it feels to me that they are going to care about this problem way further, like in maybe 2 years, you know?
Yeah, they don't. But that's my
Yeah.
point. They don't
I
care,
feel
right?
they don't care.
Because
I think they don't care.
they know
Yeah.
it's there. They're watching it. They're looking at it. They're
Yeah.
like, okay, that guy just burned 1 billion tokens. That's not good,
But
right?
that's fine. We are
That's
happy with
fine.
it. That's a problem for another day at OpenAI. I really
Right,
think
because
that.
we're more concerned about funding growth.
Yeah.
And Sam Altman essentially came out and said this, right? Like, while those wise guys don't have enough compute, aren't
Mm,
buying enough chips, aren't building enough data centers, aren't investing enough money, aren't
mm,
raising enough capital,
yeah.
we're over here going all in, chips all in,
Even for
everything. I don't care what happens with growth, just grow. We're just
exactly.
growing, right?
Exactly. So that's why, as a user, if this also impacts us, and all of a sudden we can't run our business at the same level as we are doing today because Anthropic change the rule,
The rule.
we are
Yep.
going to switch to OpenAI, where we are going to be able to continue the same level of business, right?
Right.
So, and I think OpenAI is not going to change the rules soon because they don't really care. Like, they don't focus on that type of stuff at the moment, right?
Yep.
So at the end of the day, as a user, that's the easy exit. Just go to OpenAI, and I think Anthropic, that's what they want. Once again, they are pushing the customer out, like the customer that they don't want out, right? They are like, okay, you guys go there, basically.
Go ahead.
And I think that's what they do. Is it a good thing or not? Yeah, I think there's really two ways to see that. First of all, their enterprise might be working so well that they're like, you know what, we just focus on that and we just don't want to do this $200 plan anymore. Let's just do the enterprise. It works so well. Let's just do that 100% and dominate there. I think that makes sense. On the other hand, I really like what you said, where if you are, helping the SMEs and the smaller companies to grow, the day that they become bigger, they are going to stay with you. They are going to be in your ecosystem, and that's just so much better, right? So,
I mean, you know this for a fact, Martin,
mhm,
that when we get to 10 to $20 million of revenue a month,
mhm, mhm.
you would be happy to pay
Oh, for sure, yeah.
full price, and you'd
Mhm.
be happy to stay on Anthropic to pay full price.
Yeah.
But then look, you and I have been back and forth on this a bunch of times.
Mm.
These two companies are not the same,
No, they're not the same.
and they
They
both have
really,
strong
yeah.
points and weak points,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's no guarantee that like either one of these strategies are going to win. To be fair, but one of them is maybe more fiscally responsible, and the other one is more growth focused.
Yes,
That's what it
that's
feels like to me, and I think
yeah.
it's obvious who it is. Anthropic feels like, okay, our revenue's growing. Let's be fiscally and economically responsible.
Mm-hmm,
Let's not do
mm-hmm.
growth at all costs. And OpenAI is like,
Don't
full
care.
steam ahead, man. And
Exactly.
sometimes,
Mm,
sometimes a company like Anthropic, and I'm not suggesting this is the
mm.
case, but we have this saying in English, um, excuse me, this idiom that says you may miss the forest for the trees.
Mm,
And what that means is that you're way too focused on these like little individual details
yeah.
that you miss the bigger idea and the bigger concept, right? And
Mm.
maybe these guys at Anthropic still see the forest, but maybe they understand that like they don't want to burn down that forest.
Yeah,
You know?
no, I think it's a weird move, to be honest. I think it's weird. The more I think about it, the more I think about all the guys who go to the code events, all the guys who talk on social media, all the guys who are active, on the different, yeah, once again, X,
Yeah.
Reddit, and all of that. It's people who pay 20, 100, or $200 per month, right? Like that's the loud group, right? Like that's like very big, very loud group of clients who at the end of the day makes no money, right? But there are the people who show up at your event, there are the people who show up when you post something, there are the people who cheer for you, there are the people who participate in the community, right? So maybe they don't make you
Yeah.
a lot of money, but they help you a lot on the brand and the engagement side, right? If
Well,
Anthropic,
just they're spreading the gospel about how great your company
exactly,
is as well.
exactly, right? Like so, this is weird because if you say tomorrow, okay, now we are just going to focus on the enterprise, because once again we said that so many times on the show, we said like this plan may disappear, and to me this is step one, right? Like this is step one, and they are going to make the plan disappear slowly but surely, right? And this is definitely step one, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And so if this is the plan for Anthropic, it's a weird plan, because then who's going to show up to their events? They are going to be hated by the entire community because they were loved and then they took things away, right? Then
What I mean, Martin, if you
yeah,
this is what I mean. I want
this
people
is
to
weird.
understand this.
Yeah.
If you're out there listening, you should hear this because I'm going to say it again and again. If you sell yourself as a reliable partner
Mm,
and you end up not being a reliable partner because in the middle you switch,
yeah, they look like they're switching right
what's your
now.
expectation about how I'm supposed to behave?
Yeah, especially when you have a competitor in OpenAI who is doing to do it for the clients, right? Like
Exactly.
OpenAI is doing, because, and also like one of the massive risks for Anthropic here is that GPT 5.5 and Claude Opus, they are very similar to each other. Let's
They
be
would
fair,
be, right?
they are
Yeah, they would be, right?
really similar. They are both great. Okay, they are not. Maybe this one is slightly better here, this one is slightly better there, but at the end of the day, they are really close to each other. Like if you
Yeah,
use
right.
GPT 5.5 or if you use Claude Opus, you can do the same thing, right? No, none,
Exactly.
like there is not one client who has a massive disadvantage and is going to left over and can't make any progress. This is just not true, right? So
No,
when in the
no, that's
marketplace
not
you
the way
have
this works.
yeah, this is not the way it works. So when in the marketplace your competitor is able to do the same thing as you, right? Like close or better on some point, and it's just way nicer on pricing. I mean, to me, it doesn't feel like it's a good idea, right? So, and plus, once again, the loud group of clients who engage with you, they're helpful in a way, right? Like you need some brand love, right? So, all of those people are going to OpenAI. That's a huge opportunity for OpenAI to be nice, right? Like to be nice and to be welcoming and to not screw up with something crazy. Like, okay, we are going to work with a Pentagon, right? Like this type of stuff. They have an opportunity here to get a lot of clients. Don't do something crazy, right? Like working with the Pentagon, and just welcome people, organize events, like create the community. If OpenAI does this very well in the next 6 months, that can actually be a really big win for them. Yep,
So
I
can
would
I
do that.
can I give you another example, another analogy of this
Yes.
from my time at Goldman Sachs?
Yeah. Tell me.
One thing we never did was we never discouraged one of these small hedge funds from using as many of the tools that we had. Like we never restricted their tool
That's
usage.
very interesting.
But what,
I love
but
it.
what
Yeah, I love it.
we never did, and one of the
Yeah.
we but what we expected in return from them was we expected to learn things from them.
Mm.
But where some of the larger institutional clients that were paying us $6 to $10 million a year to use the same tools and the same infrastructure, they weren't interested in giving us information that would help us make these things better. They were more likely to complain about stuff and say like, if you don't fix this, whatever it means, however that needed to be fixed, we're just going to go trade with like JP Morgan. And you're like, okay, but how should we fix it? That's your, you know what I mean? It was terrible. But the smaller hedge funds would be like, we think that if you tweak this thing and do that thing or whatever,
Mm, mm,
it'll actually be better. We'd work really closely with them. And what normally would happen is, as I said, as those funds got bigger, because their expectation was, we know if we go from 5 million to 500 million, we're going to have to start paying. And as you saw, but remember, if you could help them, just think about this, Martin, from a trading standpoint. What does a hedge fund do? It comes up with strategies to kind of beat the market. They use your tools to do that. They give you advice on how to make those tools better for them so that they can implement a strategy that helps them make more money. If they make more money, you then help them as Goldman go out and raise more money.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So they can go from 5 million to 50, from 50 to a hunch, from a hunch to 500. And now they're happy with you for everything you've done. Plus, they've given you feedback. And now
mm-hmm.
that they're at 500 million, now you sit down with them and have a conversation that goes something like this. Okay, guys, we've been at this for 3 years now, and now you're a $500 million fund. It's not
Good
5
job.
billion, but it's 500 million. Well done. We
Mm-hmm.
feel like we did this together. But now we need to get paid at a level that treats you like an institutional client, not like a testing client.
Mm-hmm.
And I never saw in the entire time that I was there, and I was there for like 6 or 7 years, I can't remember, like 6 years. I never saw a client leave and go, yeah, you gave us all this help at the beginning, but now we're going to go trade with somebody else because they're slightly cheaper than you.
Oh, really? I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure you're so right. I'm sure you're so right. If you get the help and if you get people to make you grow, I'm sure people are ready to pay more. I'm sure. I'm sure about that.
But
Yeah.
I think maybe
Mm-hmm.
this is the stance that that OpenAI is taking, and maybe this is the stance that Anthropic is missing. This idea of like, okay, these smaller firms, if we allow them to keep using our stuff to grow, because that's what they're doing for us for sure.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you're right.
When
Actually,
they do get big
mm,
enough, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, actually, you're right. Like maybe the strategy here should be to actually contact us, the super bigger usage. You know, like the guys who are maximizing the token usage. They know that, right? Like they can just create a dashboard and
Yep,
say, oh, yeah, like this is the top 1% of the guy who are using the
yep.
most token of our on our $200 plan, right?
Mhm.
You just get in touch with them and say, hello guys, how can we help? Right? Like how can we help
Yeah,
you
or what are
to
we doing that you like so much? Why are you using so
yeah.
much of this? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. So yeah, you're right. There's these two parts here. Where there is like, hey, how can we learn from you, right? Like, how can you help us build a better product, which would be great. And the second thing would be, okay, how can we help you go to the next level in your business? So now you pay for the API, right?
Right. So now
And
you
you're
can pay
right.
us.
Yes, and you're right. If tomorrow I have a sales representative from Anthropic who's nice and who say that to me, he would probably win me
You'll
for
never
life.
leave.
He will probably
You'll
win
never
me
leave.
for life. Yes, if he help
Yeah.
us, you know, like all the things that we've discussed about sending an engineer into enterprises to help them implement
FTEs. Yep.
AI, right? If we could do that at scale in the top 1% of the guys who use the most token on the subscription, right? That would be super 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 good, right? And I would love to be included into that, to work with engineer to improve our business, to make everything we do better, stronger, right? And then once we make more money, I would pay for the API. I would be super super happy. And
But
instead,
you pay for it happily. You pay for it happily, though.
happily, because I would have grown first, right? And I would have gotten
Right.
so much value. And it's right, it's very simple for them to see who is using the most. Like actually now what they're doing is the exact opposite. The top
Opposite. Yep.
1% of the power user on their plan, they tell them go to OpenAI. So the
Right. We don't
guys
care
who,
what you're doing. We don't want to learn anything from you. We don't want you here. We don't want to help you grow, is what they're saying, essentially,
if
right?
they say yeah, we don't focus on you, we don't like you, we don't want to work with you, go to OpenAI, right? And so this is a really short-term view on stuff. I agree. That's really the first time that I completely disagree with Anthropic's strategy. I think that's bad. I would do
Can I
the
give you another
complete
example
opposite.
without giving up like to the so if Anthropic is listening, if you guys are listening, take this advice. We know what we're doing.
Contact,
We've been
yeah.
through this before. Okay, take take
Exactly.
take this advice. We're not going to give you advice on everything. We don't know everything, but some stuff we do know. This we know for sure. But Martin, let me give you another example of this that's really close to home without mentioning who it was or what it was.
Tell me.
But you remember we were having a conversation recently between the two of us, and we were 100% sure we were going to answer this question. No,
Yes.
we
Okay.
cannot do this.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And
Yes.
then we
Yes.
looked
Yes.
at each other and we said,
How
how
can we say
could we
this?
get to yes?
Yes. This is just better.
We thought about it. And
Yeah.
it didn't take us that long
No.
to
No.
go from no way, we cannot do that. That's not right to no, actually, we can get to yes and everybody wins.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. Right. Right.
Right. And I
Right.
think that's the mentality that we need to sort of imbue into Anthropic. That is, you can say yes
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and you can still win.
Yes. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. It's a really really good point because yeah. So I think the best way to summarize all of that is that it's not a good idea to kick out your power users, the guys who love you, the guy who use you at the most, right? Who pays you, right? Your clients. It's not a good idea to go against them, right? I don't think that's a good idea. Like, I think the last thing that is going to happen, the last thing, last, that is going to happen is that guys like us who are at the top of the usage, right? Who really maximize the entire weekly thing every week, right?
Every week, yeah.
Every week, the guy, if they expect us to go pay for the API, they are delusional. They are absolutely delusional. This is the last thing that is going to happen. Why? Because they are going against us, right? Like, we are not going to 10x our bill. Like, let's take it the other way. The reason why we pay $200 is not because we don't want to pay the API, it's because we can't afford the API, right? So it's not like we are trying to save money. It's like we have access to tools that would be super expensive otherwise, and we are happy to pay the $200 price point, not the $2,000 price points, right? So it's a really different mindset, right? It's not that I'm trying to save $1,800 per month, but in my head I'm already ready to pay $2,000. No. In my head, I have never been ready to pay $2,000. I have never budgeted that type of stuff, but I'm ready to pay $200. That's my budget, right? So if they expect the power user to go to the API, I think this is going to be a massive fail, right? Because I think much more people are like us, right? Rather than a potential client for the API just saving money. And so all of us, like, the only solution we have is to go to OpenAI. So let's see what Anthropic does. But maybe what they're gonna do is, like, we're gonna push, we're gonna go to OpenAI, and in 3 months we're gonna say, okay, sorry, we stop. But then, can we just save the 6 months? Can we just like avoid the switch back and forth? Because if during this period OpenAI is really nice, right, and really helpful, and they do event, and and like, they really invest into this power clients, that's actually a huge opportunity, right? Like, I would love to have 1,000 power users of Anthropic. Okay, I'm losing a few $1,000s on them, but it's such a high value type of clients, right? In terms of learning, in terms of potential, it's huge. I'd love to have
So
them.
also think about this, Martin. Has your ability to use Anthropic to scale the stuff that we want to do, has it helped us grow?
Oh, for sure it has.
Right, so we're not like theorizing about this.
No. We
This
have
is
done it.
grounded in reality.
Yes.
And this is the reason why I think that they should listen to us. And let me give you another example, just so everybody can understand. So they don't think it's just like, two guys venting, because we're not really doing that. In the old days, General Motors, right, which is the U.S. car company, had plenty of car brands. Right now they have 4. Chevrolet is like their cheapest brand. GMC is like their truck business. Buick is kind of like, I'm almost rich, but I'm making progress. And Cadillac is their luxury brand, yeah?
Okay. Luxury. Let's say American luxury. Just to
Yeah, believe me, I'm not stomping for Cadillac. I don't want one. I don't need one. I don't want to look at one.
just to
But
define what's
from a GM's perspective,
Exactly.
that's their luxury brand. Leave me alone.
Exactly.
But the point is, they can sell the Cadillacs at a premium. And the people that own a Chevrolet aspire to own a Cadillac.
Yeah.
They do. Or they aspire at the beginning to own a Buick, which is kind of like a premium car with like a focus on stylish, you know what I mean? Refined SUVs. But the point is that the margins on a Cadillac are probably higher than the margins on a Chevy.
Yeah.
Which means, in this case, those Cadillacs are probably at some level subsidizing the sales of the Chevrolets. Because if I get you into my bandwagon, if I get you to buy a Chevy as a 21-year-old, maybe when you're 30, you can now afford a Buick. And when you're 45, now you can afford a Cadillac. You're not going to go buy a BMW because you've just had a great experience with GM.
Yeah. Yes.
And you like American cars. So this is the point I'm trying to make. The Goldman example is the same. The GM example is the same. And the Anthropic example should be the same. Right now, we are driving the Anthropic Chevrolet.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And so then, if we consider these points, okay, like if we try to do a little bit deeper into that, I think that's really interesting, because if you subsidize like the the loss, let's say, right, or the low margin of your entry level product with the high margin of the more luxury products. I don't believe Anthropic has had enough time in the last 4 months to have the proper data of what is the loss or what is the profit about letting the people using the $200 plan. It's been
They
just
have
three
no idea.
months. It's so small, right? So it's a short-term decision. You need
Right,
way
right.
more time to be able to say, out of 10,000 people who use the $200 plan at the maximum limit, right? Out of 10,000 people, do we win money because some of them upgrade to the API, and at the end of the day, as you say, at the end of the day, that just works, right? Or do we lose money, right? Sure, on a per person basis, on month one, month two, month three, for sure you lose money. But what about in 24 months? Right? What about in
Right.
24 months between the guys who upgrade and who start to pay way more money? Does that make sense economically, right? They don't know the answer to this question. It's been way too short, right? They didn't have enough time, so they just
Right.
roll it out. They just rule it. They just say, okay, it's just not going to work. We just don't play that game, right? And it's
Right.
it's not good. I think it's not a good strategy to me.
So a few more things, and then
Mm-hmm.
maybe we'll close down the show for tonight. But a few more things. One is, it must mean that there's somebody in the accounting department who ran over to like senior managers, like, these guys are killing us.
Yeah.
We got to stop this. These We're bleeding money over here, with making no comparison about the subsidy that we talked about, and
Mm,
no mathematical calculation about, like, yeah, they may be killing us, but they could turn into these bigger clients, and those bigger clients, the margins are huge. That's why our revenue is growing from $30 billion, and every 3 months it grows another $15 billion. It grows
mm,
50%. So the senior management should have just said, like, let's not worry about that for now, right? That's small. Let's worry about making our bigger clients better products and having them spend more money with us, because that's going to subsidize us. We're not going to care about this anymore.
mm, mm, mm.
Um, that's the first thing. The second thing is, it's almost like they're not even considering the sample size that they have. This is the
Yeah.
point that you were making.
Exactly.
Just statistically, the sample size is not large enough for them to make an economic
No
decision, because
idea.
they don't know. They don't have
Exactly.
enough information yet.
It
And the
takes.
third thing is,
Mm.
are they considering LTV?
Yeah, that's linked to each other, right? Like they have no idea about the
Exactly.
LTV on me,
That's why
right?
I did it in that order.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. We have no idea about what the LTV on a power user because it's just too soon, right? Like you just can.
That's my point. Yeah. It's way
So,
too soon.
so it's really actually like the more we speak about it, the more I get convinced that maybe Anthropic has much bigger problems, huh? Much bigger compute problem, and they are trying to save everywhere they can.
Ah,
You know,
yeah. You mean
like maybe they
from a data center compute
yeah,
standpoint, yeah.
maybe they are in a much worse situation than we think, and they just for example they would love to onboard Salesforce tomorrow, but they can't because they
Yeah,
just
and
can't
look,
give them the power, you know.
and management at OpenAI has been making fun of them for months now, saying, like, they didn't build
Mm.
out fast enough, and maybe OpenAI just built out enough compute fast enough where they're willing to let that compute not sit idle, just
Yeah,
have somebody use it for anything
yeah,
rather than just let it sit idle, right?
and
So
then
maybe.
try and then on the OpenAI side, they are making like all of this calculation about the LTV, about okay, how much do we actually lose, but do we actually make money at the end of the day? Like how does that math
Mhm.
work? They maybe have the capacity to do it, right? They may be able to do this plan, right? Where Anthropic, maybe they can't, they just cannot, right? And they may have much larger problem than we think, and they are trying to save everywhere because once again, like going against your power user, it's bad. Like, it's not good at all,
It's
right?
always a
it's
bad idea. Always
it's
a bad
really a
idea.
bad idea, right? Like your best client who come every day to your restaurant, and maybe he takes the smallest meal. He pay like the smallest bill possible, and he takes your table for 2 hours. It's really annoying. But he come every day. Do you really
Right.
kick him out, right? And plus, sometimes he comes with his family, sometimes with some friend, sometimes you go to a restaurant, conference saying how great your restaurant is. You don't kick
Exactly.
him out, right? You
He may
don't
have
kick him
his
out.
wedding there. You've given him the right service. He
Exactly.
may have a 300-person wedding there. What are you doing?
Exactly. It's so short term to kick this guy out of your restaurant, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And so you do that only if you really need the table, right? Like if you really need the table and you have no choice. And maybe that's what's happening to Anthropic. Maybe they are just like really constraints, like badly,
Right, and
very bad.
we know they're slightly constrained because wasn't it Anthropic that started renting XAI's
Yes, Colossus.
capacity?
Yeah.
They started renting Colossus One. Here's the thing, though, as well, Martin, and then maybe we'll wrap up. It takes about 2 years to build a data center,
Mm,
and maybe this is one of the reasons why OpenAI was running so fast to build out enough compute capacity
mm,
because they didn't want to have to worry about these types of problems, not this problem
yes.
per se, but these types of issues where they were like, let's just again grow as fast as we possibly can and grow our
Yeah.
capacity as fast as we can because at some point we're going to be component constrained,
Yeah.
land constrained, power constrained,
Everything constrained.
and everything constrained. And then we're going to be able to run as fast as we possibly can while everybody else is still trying to catch up to us, no matter how much money they raise. Because
Eh,
you can't buy stuff that isn't being produced. So you can raise as
mm,
much money as you want at whatever valuation you want, but
mm.
if the chips are physically not available and the data center is physically not built yet, and even if it is built, if it's not connected to the grid,
Exactly. Good luck for you. You just can't do anything, right? And so, if that's the
good luck with that.
case, if that's the case, which means like OpenAI may be able to have a massive, massive, massive growth, like over Anthropic. That's gonna slow down the growth of Anthropic very badly, huh? Because that type
Yeah,
of move is going first of all to give them like a huge backlash, right? Like if people are not going to be happy at all, right? OpenAI should use that as an opportunity once again to build the community, to show some love, to just spend like a lot of money to build this community around the product itself, right? Like what we've been talking about for weeks now. Stop talking about the drama, focus on the product because it's good, right?
right, right.
Because
No
it's
drama.
good. Stop the drama, put Sam Altman somewhere else if you want, like maybe remove him as a CEO. I have no idea, right? But stop
Maybe
the
even move
drama.
into Sam Bankman-Fried's house in the Bahamas. It looks like a nice house. I don't know.
And it's empty, right? Because Sam is
It's
not there
empty,
anymore. So
exactly. It's empty. It looked like it had an unbelievable view. Sam, how does that sound to you?
exactly. I don't know, like, but maybe Sam is amazing as well, right? And maybe he's able to handle all of this thing in such a great way, and maybe the team really really needs him, right? So maybe but they really need to stop the drama. That's really really the most important part. They have to focus on the product itself, and if
Exactly.
they show enough love to the power user of Claude, like us, for example, and we switch and we're happy there, that's going to be a really, really, really big switch in 6 months. The time, the time for us to grow, right? And then
Mm.
once we become bigger, then we're gonna pay for the OpenAI API because they were the guys who helped us go there, right?
Yeah.
So,
And I
so,
mean, they may
mm,
miss market signals as well, Martin, right? Because let's
mm,
say let's say there are, I don't know, 50, 60,000 people just like we are that are using their thing, and all of
mm,
them or half of them just leave. The market signals that they're sending on a day to day basis, their usage patterns and stuff like that is really great information for Anthropic. Then again, we use this for small hedge funds. We fed that data into what we thought about how the bigger hedge funds or the bigger clients would react, and it benefited everybody. Anyway, I feel like we've said enough about this, but yeah,
mm. Yeah, and we
yeah.
don't know yet if economically it doesn't work. Huh? We don't like this.
No, we don't know.
This
Sample size too small.
the sample size and the time size is way too small, right? So
Yep,
it may work, right? So it may work. We don't know. Like I have no idea when I'm gonna be happy to pay for the API, right? Like we need to grow a few steps, but maybe it's gonna be in 3 months, maybe in 6 months. We have no idea.
exactly.
So we need to wait for that. And if Entropy doesn't have the time to wait, it could be a really bad decision. So
I
let's see how
agree.
it goes. So
I
maybe if OpenAI wanted to want like if they really have a compute problem, they could pay us to stay. you know, to
So, if the last thing I'll say about this, Martin, is
Mm,
if we only had a chance to talk to somebody at OpenAI
mm,
about, stuff, it would, I don't know, maybe we
I,
don't
f-
have that opportunity, but if we did, that would be great.
I feel like we just laid on a 6 months plan for OpenAI
We do too.
to build something, and I think the plan makes ton of sense. Let's say,
I think so too. Now we just need to find someone to talk to.
yes. Now we really need someone to talk to. That's interesting.
Okay, pal. Should we end here?
Yeah, okay, let's keep our second topic for our third topic for next week or for tomorrow.
Yeah,
Sorry,
not
wrong
at all. Not at all. Okay,
wrong
that's it.
button. Yeah.
That is it for AGTP Daily. Thank you, everybody, again for joining us today. We love having people watch in real time. Also, we love getting any comments you can give us while we're going live. But feel free as well to give us a thumbs up on today's video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It really helps us out. And connect to us on all our socials on X, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. And let us know in the comments if you have any questions or any comments on the stuff that we're doing on any of the platforms we have. My name is Michael Waits. That is Martin Runford. I'm going to say goodbye for now.
Bye bye.